Welcome to the home of Unitarian Universalism in Bismarck and Mandan. In our Unitarian Universalist community, we celebrate diversity of beliefs, and we are guided by our 7 principles, which you can find on our website. This congregation is a place where we gather to nurture each other, be nurtured on our life journey, and put our beliefs into action through work in our communities and the wider world. My name is Elizabeth Sollie, and I'm the interim minister here. And Jo Dunne will be one of our speakers this morning, and Alicia Fowl will be our musician. We'd like to extend a warm welcome if you're a visitor. We are so pleased that you're joining us this morning. I would invite you not to multitask this morning, but to be fully present in this space and time. Please join us in the spirit of meditation, reflection, or prayer as we deepen into our service and share our opening words for this morning. Our opening words are from the conservationist Aldo Leopold in honor of Earth Day. Of what avail are 40 freedoms without a blank spot on the map? We are in our own kind of blank spot on the map in these times, and it is good to be here together. Welcome. I hope you've all brought your chalice to our service this morning. We light them wherever we are in solidarity with Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists all over the globe who are also lighting their chalices this morning. Thousands of individual flames that remind us we are connected to something pretty wonderful. I have the empty chair beside me this morning. This is a practice in Unitarian Universalism that acknowledges those who are in our hearts, but not in the room with us. This morning, the empty chair is again for those who have died in this pandemic, those who do not have the technology to join us this morning, and those who have been asked to shelter in place, but don't actually have a safe space to shelter in. Let us light our chalices. If you all have chalices and want to turn on your video for a minute and let us see, that would be lovely. I read our chalice lighting words this morning by Amy Carol Webb. We light this flame for the art of sacred unknowing, humbled by all that we cannot fathom in this time. We come into the presence of what we do know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know, that love is now and forever, the only answer to everything and everyone in every moment. So back before the world turned on its head, this was to be a multi-generational service. I thought we could listen to the wisdom of Jo and then maybe plant some flower seeds. I was going to bring in those condiment cups, the little ones, filled with dirt, and pass the seeds around, and we would share with one another what we hoped to sow in this season. I tried to think how we could still be multi-generational, or how I could get seeds to all of you, but eventually I had to just accept that things have changed. Maybe that acceptance is something we can all cultivate in this season. Things have changed. What hasn't changed is that April 22nd is Earth Day, that we are in springtime, and that Easter and Passover have just happened. Easter was especially relevant this year with the notion that traumatic death had to happen for something else to be born. I know many faith communities focused on Good Friday more intentionally this year. focused on the painful journey that comes before the resurrection. A crisis is an excellent time to ponder big questions, and I think it is very interesting to think about the intersection of Passover, Easter, Earth Day, spring, and the pandemic. We are living in a time of big themes and big connections. It's been suggested that one of the silver linings of the climate crisis is that it has become inescapably clear that we are interdependent. Humans are not outside of nature. I forget who said it, maybe it was one of you, but last week I wrote down, we are not trying to save nature, we are nature trying to save itself. It is an important perspective shift. I think awareness is up about climate as humans take a little break from running around the globe and consuming things. Suddenly we are afforded a novel opportunity to see how we impact our environment. And I want to be clear that hitting the pause button will not reverse the climate crisis. The half-life of many greenhouse gases is very long, and those gases are not going anywhere anytime soon. Ice is not reforming, ocean levels are not dropping, human population will still be very high at the end of this pandemic, and we would certainly never hope for a virus to reduce the numbers of humans on our planet. We will resume all our bad habits when this is over. But I do think that a lot of our human problems are caused by a lack of imagination. And this unusual time is encouraging us to imagine a different reality. We still have a climate crisis service. We will still have a climate crisis service by and by, but today I wanted to focus on some good news for Earth Day. You have all read about the reduction of air pollution. With less, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm letting people in while I'm doing this. I'm not very good at multitasking. So you've all read about the reduction of air pollution. With less commuter traffic and less air traffic, the air is a bit better to breathe lately. We can see more. One city in India said they were able to see the Himalayan mountain range for the first time in decades as the air quality improves. We have seen it is possible to reduce air pollution. Although I don't think many people relish the thought of working from home forevermore, maybe it is possible to work from home going forward at least 2 or 3 days a week. Perhaps we can also have more distance meetings by Zoom and reduce air travel permanently. I love that our regional assembly was virtual this year. Instead of traveling for 2 days and spending a lot of money on accommodations, we were able to join in virtually for 1 day of the assembly, and it was only $50. People have long wondered about how we hold General Assembly and all the carbon that involves. An experiment has been thrust upon us, and GA will be virtual this year. And there's still time to sign up. It's much cheaper as well. I don't know that we want to completely give up the grand coming together of Unitarian Universalists. But perhaps we can see now if we can alternate years with in-person and virtual. It certainly makes it economically more feasible for less affluent people to attend. Maybe we can imagine a new way of doing business now. And I hope this makes us feel empowered to live more sustainably. We are also taking a break from consumption, and judging by the amount of people out walking on previously empty paths, people are turning to other ways to feed their souls. That quick fix of buying something new may cost a worker their life. That is a good incentive to stop buying. We are given a lot of opportunity to attend to our relationships. This is straining relationships that already had fissures, but it is also feeding and nurturing people. Maybe some of you have had people contact you that you haven't heard from in a while. Maybe you are the one reaching out. We are remembering the value of human contact. Screen time tends to numb rather than feed, but catching up with an old friend or relative can infuse us with a sense of well-being. We are also realizing how much being with other people adds to our lives, something we possibly took for granted. There have been some studies lately about the harmful effects nature lovers have on wildlife as people enjoy the great outdoors. Many public lands are closed now. Public lands make up a significant chunk of Western states, some of them being almost 50% public lands. I like to imagine all the creatures going about their business without factoring humans in. I hope it helps them to recover and lets them head into the summer with robust health. And there are also good things that are happening not related to the virus. Last year, a Dutch company unveiled the world's first long-range solar car. They hope to have it in production by next year. Around Earth Day a year ago, the National Pollinator Garden Network met and exceeded their goal of registered pollinator gardens with 1,040,000 gardens registered in their Million Pollinator Garden Challenge. The organization launched the ambitious initiative back in 2015 as a means of saving pollinators, which are responsible for about 1 in 3 bites of food that we eat. Though most of the registered pollinator gardens are in the United States, the project also recruited members in Canada, Mexico, and Europe. The registered spaces, most of which are comprised of private yards and public gardens, all add up to a network of approximately 5 million acres of enhanced or new pollinator habitat. A man in Cameroon has been cleaning up pollution in his city by turning plastic bottles into boats. Ismail Issomeabone was first inspired to build his eco-boats as a student back in 2011. After his boats proved successful, he invested all his money into launching his nonprofit called Madiba and Nature. The organization now has eco-bins for collecting, sorting, and recycling waste materials. At the turn of the century, humpback whales were hunted to near extinction. There were an estimated 450 left, but the species is back up to about 25,000 now. The Sierra Energy Company has been readying to tackle all the non-recyclable garbage that ends up in landfills by vaporizing the heaps of trash and turning it into clean energy without any waste or emissions. The fuel that is made from fast ox technology is reportedly 20 times cleaner than California fuel standards. Additionally, all the gases that are generated by the chemical process are captured for reuse, for instance, to replace fossil fuels that power airplanes or for use as fertilizer, hydrogen, or ethanol. In August 2019, the company announced that they were able to close a $33 million Series A investment round in order to further develop and commercialize its technology for renewable energy and fuels. So let's hope that they're progressing with that. So you see, some people have been imagining a better world right along. But during this unusual time, I think more of us are beginning to imagine what could be. My favorite pandemic meme to date says, "Stop preparing for the apocalypse and start preparing for the revolution." I think we are being asked right now to hold 2 truths. One is that this pandemic is causing suffering. People are sick and dying. People are losing their livelihoods, which is no small thing. There is a lot of loss right now. Human touch, being with loved ones in crisis or as they die, grieving together after they die, weddings, baptisms, graduations, births, ordinations, coming of age rites. We're not a species designed to live in isolation, and there are costs, large and small. Although these things are real, all of these things are real, and we hold them tenderly. What is also true is that our society is at a crossroads. We are being asked to let go of how we thought things were going to be. But if we think of it as a revolution instead of an apocalypse, maybe we will be willing to live with more uncertainty and discomfort. Maybe thinking of this as labor on the way to birthing something new will help our mental health in this strange time. So hold both your sorrow and losses and your hopes, and accept that things have changed. Unleash your imagination. So please join Alicia now in singing hymn number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply these starry seas, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on. Breathe the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathom, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Well, hello, I am Mary Jo Dunne. You can call me Jo, and today I'll be speaking to you about the problem of food waste and the things you can do to prevent it. As you can see by my sash and crown, I hold a local title in the Miss America program. I am Miss Coal Country through Mercer County, as well as a candidate for Miss North Dakota. And working to fight food waste is my social impact goal throughout my time as a title holder. Although it is also something that I hope to keep raising awareness on long after my year is over. So in light of Earth Day coming up, now is a perfect time to learn more about the issue and what we can do to help. Have you ever had this experience? You buy a bag of salad, stick it in the back of the fridge, and find it a month later slimy and inedible. You have no choice but to toss it in the garbage bin. If you have, welcome to the party. You've contributed to the over 1 billion pounds of food that go to waste in the US every year. Food waste is a major issue in today's world, particularly in this country. In fact, the US Department of Agriculture estimates that 30 to 40% produced every year never makes it onto someone's plate. The bad news is that this causes a lot of damage. The time, labor, and energy resources that go into producing this food are wasted along with it. Food left to rot in landfills increases greenhouse gases, contributing to climate change. And worst of all, 800 million people in the world still go hungry on a daily basis, and 1 in 6 Americans deals with food insecurity. This country produces so much, yet manages its resources so poorly. The bad news is that we waste enough food every year to solve world hunger. The good news, however, is that there are things that you can do to help decrease the amount of waste that happens. Even if there's not as much we can do about food waste in major companies and corporations, paying attention to things within our own households can help us take great strides in decreasing it on an individual level. We can learn to be wise consumers of all that we have been given instead of mindlessly contributing to waste. So when it comes to food waste in your home, the main thing to keep in mind is that a little planning can go a long way. When you grocery shop, map out what you need beforehand. Choose recipes for the week's meals and buy only the ingredients you need to make them. Even though buying in bulk can save money, you should really evaluate whether or not you will actually use everything in the package before making a purchase. When bringing food home to your pantry or your fridge, pay attention to how you are storing it. Many fruits and vegetables have a longer shelf life if you store them in your fridge instead of the pantry or vice versa. Another thing you can do to organize your storing spaces in the order of what food needs to be used first. That's called the FIFO method. FIFO, which is an acronym for first in, first out. Moving older food to the front reminds you to finish it before starting anything else. It also helps you to keep track of everything you have in your fridge. No more year-old mustard bottles piling up in the nether regions of the top shelf. When you prepare meals as well, cook for exactly how many people you know are going to be eating, unless you have specific plans to use the leftovers before they go bad. Which brings me to my next point, expiration dates. If there were one top reason that so much food is trashed, this would be it. I am going to tell you something today that is a bit contrary to popular belief, but is absolutely true. Use-by dates printed on packages are made to indicate the product's peak quality, not its spoilage. They tell you absolutely nothing about when food is going to go bad. Because of food safety laws, dates are printed sooner rather than later, leaving a lot of wiggle room. And this is both a good thing and a bad thing. We live in nearly 100% assurance that the food we buy is going to be safe to eat. However, because so many people and companies take expiration dates as an absolute, an unthinkable amount of food ends up in the dumpster that is still perfectly edible and safe. So then how do you tell if food has actually gone bad or not? Part of it depends on the food. Obviously, items such as eggs and milk might only be good a week or so after passing the date. For things such as flour, dried beans and pasta, canned goods and condiments though, this is probably going to be much longer. When in doubt, use your senses. Does the food look normal? Does it smell okay? How does it taste? If none of these things seem off, the food is probably still safe. Learning to tell like this can help save a lot of food. A few items such as fruits and vegetables can even go to use after they pass their peak quality. For instance, have you ever used brown bananas to make banana bread? Produce items that may be soft or bruised can be put to use in soup, smoothies, or baked goods. And if food is absolutely inedible, why not give composting a try? This is much less hurtful to the environment than sending it to a landfill. Speaking of how food appears, cosmetic standards are also a major issue when it comes to wasted food. Did you know that grocery stores have standards on how fruits and vegetables ought to look in order to be sold? If something is an odd shape, a slightly different color, blemished, or bigger and smaller than the produce item typically is, chances are it won't make it to the shelves. In fact, around 20% of produce is wasted for reasons such as this. So when you see a fruit or veggie that looks less than perfect, don't let that stop you from buying it. Some stores offer oddly shaped produce at discounted prices. Take advantage of this. You can also shop at farmers markets, making a point of buying food that might not be picture perfect. It's just as good to eat, and it makes a huge difference. As we all know, a large portion of food waste doesn't even happen in the home. It happens in restaurants, factories, and supermarkets. Keep that in mind when you eat out. Are you supporting a business that has policies in place to prevent excessive waste? Do they donate unused food at the end of the day instead of trashing it? If you're not sure, do some research on the company's policies. Ask an employee what they do with their excess food. The answer may surprise you. As someone who has worked in food service before, I have seen a lot of the waste that goes on. A sandwich shop I worked at once made their bread fresh every day, but threw out several garbage bags worth of bread from the day before every morning. The company prohibited them from donating it. Last summer, I worked at a gourmet candy shop. So many products there expired before they sold, and company practice was to throw them out. Sometimes I was able to convince my manager to let me take some home, as I had family and friends who would eat the candy since most of it was perfectly still good. And I ended up moving into college with 3 whole coolers full of expired chocolate, which was great on my end, but it still really gets me to think about everything that's still thrown away at that store now. So please, before taking your business somewhere, do your research. As customers, we ultimately get to choose what companies are around based on what we support. So why not support places that have policies which reflect our values? Another thing to keep in mind while eating out in particular is to eat all that you order. Don't ask for unnecessary condiments that you won't use. And if the food is too much to eat all at once, take leftovers home for later. So much goes to waste in restaurants simply because of portion sizes. All-you-can-eat buffet settings also tend to be quite wasteful because of how long food can be set out for, as well as people piling their plates high and not finishing everything. So perhaps we should all remember what we were told in kindergarten. Take only what you'll eat and clean your plate. So this is a lot of information, I know, but to sum it all up, I would say that there are 4 main things that you can keep in mind in order to prevent waste. First, be organized while shopping and cooking. Secondly, remember that expiration dates indicate peak quality, not spoilage. Use your senses instead. Thirdly, your food doesn't have to look perfect in order to be safe and delicious. And fourth, eat out mindfully. If everyone took these steps, we could come a long way in reducing the amount of waste that happens and work towards directing our resources so that more people get fed and less food gets trashed. Right now is a time when we have so much more leisure time on our hands, so it's the perfect opportunity to learn new habits. If we all work together, we can truly make a difference for other people and for the planet. Thank you for listening.
So we extinguish our chalice this morning with these words by N. Scott Momaday. We are what we imagine. Our very existence consists in our imagination of ourselves. Our best destiny is to imagine, at least completely, who and what and that we are. The greatest tragedy that can befall us is to go unimagined.
In your love we find relation, all connected we are whole. Timeless mystery, quiet conscience, deepest values voice inside. With the drum and with the cauldron, this we ask you beyond.